Hello everyone, welcome to episode 8 of Energy in Motion. My name is Callum Priest. I own this media brand which specialises in conversation episodes with leading industry professionals and creatives. I also hold music events, networking events, and I work with a range of artists. I've done digital marketing as a career for the past 4 years, working for a number of companies. Now I'm here with the fabulous Monique. Monique is the owner of the Creative Industry Awards, a successful entrepreneur and also an expert in trading. So pleasure to be here.
Thank you, pleasure being here.
Of course, man. So tell the audience a bit about yourself.
So I am from Birmingham, born and bred here. As you said, I'm the founder of the Creative Industry Awards. I have a background in the creative industry of about 17 years, I'd say. Okay. So quite a few different things that I've done in the creative field over the years. As you said, I do forex trading. So that's a new thing that I've picked up, new skill, which I really enjoy. Do other things as well. I do hosting, bit of acting. We actually had a premiere on Friday, but I missed that because I was in Dubai. And yeah, that's me.
So how did you, obviously you said you worked in the Creative Industry Awards for 17 years.
Yeah.
So actually I'm going to start by saying what made you want to get into the creative industry?
So I started off doing pageantry type stuff, and it was because people just used to think that I did modelling from a young age. So I thought, all right, let's look into it. So I started off doing pageantry stuff, and then from there branched off into modelling and makeup artistry, and just stemmed from there really.
Was there anything mentally in terms of drive, ambition or goals? Did you have like set goals before you got into the creative industry, or was that something that the more you got into it then the more the goals started to become clear?
It was the more I got into it because I actually wanted to be a veterinary nurse. That was when I was young, that's what I wanted to be. I just fell into it really. I always say that it found me. I didn't actually find the creative industry. When I was young, I didn't know anybody in the industry in any capacity. So it's not something that I really thought about doing. It was just that people would ask, certain comments or say certain things. I thought, okay, why not? So a family member put me into the pageant world. Like it was a competition that I did initially, and then I just kind of made contacts from there, and it just grew, and one opportunity led to another opportunity, and here I am now.
How would you describe your experience when you were starting out in the creative industry?
I had no experience. I literally just was figuring it out, and back then you didn't have like your Instagram and things like that, so it wasn't something that you'd see people doing on a regular basis. There was a show that used to come on TV, America's Next Top Model, so I used to watch that. But apart from that, I didn't have any experience at all, so I literally learned as I went along. There's a lot of mistakes that I made along the way. There was no one to really confide in or no one to really speak to, no mentor or anything like that for me. So I tried out certain things, failed at certain things, made some crazy mistakes. For example, doing photo shoots and not getting your pictures and things like that, just not understanding how the industry worked.
Did you receive a lot of feedback from people that sort of sparked you to create this change in yourself moving forwards, or was this something, it was like a heavy self-reflection type of thing for you?
No, I think it was a positive feedback from people. The first modelling competition or pageant that I did, I came second, and I thought, well, gosh, that's great. And it was just from there, the feedback that I got, it really boosted me up and made me want to look into it even more. So from that, it was a couple of like music videos. I then looked into makeup artistry, which I did for a few years. But it's just like a natural progression, and I guess it wasn't a passion initially, but then it grew into a passion. It was like a bit of a hobby which grew into a passion, which is now a career for me.
So do you believe in the creative industry that they're all sort of connected in a way, all of the different, I guess, categories, obviously, modelling, personal brand, influencing? 100%,
especially like the personal branding side of things, because I think whether you're a model, influencer, an artist, an actor, you do need to have a certain brand or image. And makeup artistry, for example, a makeup artist would do the makeup of an actor. Likewise, a rapper even sometimes, I've seen them get a bit of touch-ups, a model, things like that. Graphic designer will probably help, an artist with a logo. Then they might help get the logo together for the film. Then you've got the marketing side of things. So I think a lot of it is linked in some way.
Okay.
And you also find a lot of creatives are multifaceted. So you'll find a creative that is an actor, potentially might be able to sing or started off like as a dancer or things like that. So I think they are really linked, a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, I think I found that myself as I've gone. So obviously I started doing marketing, and then it was like speaking to clients about like the actual business side of things as well. And then it went to like doing a show, and then it went to doing events. And something I found is like the more you go into it, you realise like it's all just really you.
Yeah.
It's all about you. How would you say to the audience what would you say the importance of having a personal brand is as a creative?
I think it's really important, depending on what you do though. As a model, as an example, I use that. Depending on the kind of model you are, you do need to have a certain type of brand. You are your brand, and that's something that I always say. People see you, you are the product. As an actor, I know that you'll probably play a certain role, but you're still like, you're a role model, you're an inspiration to some people. Some people idolize you, and which I don't agree with the idolizing part, but at the end of the day, people do look up to people in certain roles and positions, and you do have a lot of influence on people. So your personal branding is important. Now, some people's personal brand's extremely professional, some people's personal brand's erratic. Everyone's personal brand's different, but then that will cater to your particular audience, I guess.
That's very true. It's very true.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think personal branding is so important because a lot of people can only go off what they visually see in front of them. Like, you could have the greatest mindset ever, you could have the greatest skills ever, but if you don't find a way to effectively communicate and showcase that digitally, or through your mannerisms, your expressions, the way that you speak, people just might not see it. And I think waiting for people to see who you really are when you already are that person is just something that takes too long.
Yeah, because people love you as a person. People buy from or love people, if that makes sense. A lot of people that like connect and follow me, it's because of like me and like my branding, my personality and things like that. So I think it is extremely important. I mean, if you are, let's just say, a gospel singer, you can't be a gospel singer, but then your personal brand is you're gambling and you're drinking alcohol every day. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense, does it? So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, how would you say that, how did you develop your own personal branding around yourself in a way that you found to be effective?
For me, my brand's just always been, professional. But I think that stems back from my childhood as well. How I was brought up, it was always carry yourself well, never leave your house untidy. My dad grew up in Jamaica, but he grew up with maids. So my dad was always regimented in terms of, you always spread your bed when you get up and things like that. So my brand, it's just me. I haven't created a certain type of brand, if that makes sense. I think it's just quite lucky for me. I've been able to be myself, and it's just carried me through over the years. But definitely like being professional. I guess because I started off in the pageantry, it's that kind of field, isn't it? It's all beauty and makeup and the right poses and being able to speak and communicate the right way. Which is why I say I think it found me, because it just gelled with me and my brand and my personality, really.
I can see that, because I think something that's important is like stoicism. I think stoicism is just naturally something that like people aspire to be, like, in terms of you don't let a mood or an emotion dictate what you do or how quickly you do it or whether you do something. And I think you are just like a very stoic person in how you actually like operate in business and how you operate in these different things. And I think you face it till you make it. And when people see you face every single thing that you're coming up against, that's inspiring in a way. I think the way that even how quickly you built the Creative Industry Awards is very admirable. People don't realise how much work actually goes into that. So to actually get so many people to come together and just celebrate, like, network and showcase themselves. But I think, well, obviously I attended the last one. I got to experience it for myself, and it was a very welcoming and just amazing environment. And it's something where I felt like I was elevating myself as I was there. Like when I was actually like going up and speaking with people, it's a very like rare opportunity to where you can actually like, it's a lot high value.
Yeah, thanks. And I think the reason why that was so successful from the onset, because it took me 6 months to actually think of the idea, if you like, create it, the logos and put the categories together, get the judging panel together, promote it and have the event. It was 6 months from start to finish. But that, I think, is because of my branding. I think because of the kind of events that I go to, the people that I'm around, the environments that people see me in. I think, once I started to promote it, and the way I promoted it, it was a case of, well, if one's involved, I know it's going to be good. If that kind of makes sense. And also, I think, you know, people just really wanted to support me because I support a lot of people, and I think that's based on relationships as well that I've built over the years. I think that was down to branding and also the relationships that I've built over the years.
Amazing, man. It's amazing. It's rewarding when you see everyone in the room and you see everyone, you just see how it's actually impacting people. What would you say for you is the most impactful thing, like emotionally and mentally to you, that you've seen from
the awards? Every year it's, you know, seeing the collaborations and the projects and the connections that come out of it. But the first year that really blew me away was we had an artist called Fearon who closed the event, and Ashley Walters won Creative Legacy. And I remember just standing back and watching Ashley, just standing there watching Fearon, was really, really taking in his craft. And I thought, this is what it's about. Do you know what I mean? Like putting people on a platform in front of people who probably would never have got to, you know, see their greatness if it wasn't for something like this. Because the awards itself, it's not me, it's for the people, you know what I mean? And for me to just see the relationships that are being built out of it, I can't even explain, you know, what it's like. Even like with yourself, some of the people that I've seen you interview or connect with since the last event, which was only just, a month ago. It's really heartwarming. So what was your main takeaway, would you say, from the awards?
I think my main takeaway was just like, I'm already a very action-driven person, but I think after that, I just hit the gas even more, man. I was like, the amount of opportunity to work with people who actually align with your vision. I think that's the biggest thing, is when you're actually there, you have to face it, because it's like, you can't hide who you are. People will just see through you, the value that you've worked so hard to instill in yourself, the things you've worked hard to create. And when I was there and I was just showing people the different things that I've built independently by myself, the feedback about it, the reactions, and like, oh my God, like, I can't wait to work with you on this. Like, that for me, that was something I just felt so much more empowered and after it.
Good, and I love the fact that there are different types of people in that room. So because it is the creative industry, you've got everybody you can think of, haven't you? From film directors to makeup artists to script writers to artists. And it's very rare you get to be in a room with like such a great caliber of people, from like your celebrities as well, from people that are starting out. There's just like all different levels of people. So I'm glad that
No, I appreciate it, man. Well, you did that, so
thank you.
But I think something that I felt as well is like, it really gives you a much deeper appreciation and insight into people's individual journeys. Because when you don't actually do the things that they specialise in, you're sort of just seeing it from an outside perspective. And when you're there and you see even like the photographers who are there, and like, you see them with their equipment and they're making sure to get the perfect shot, they're trying to get the perfect shots. And like, I just found it really, I think it's really inspiring to see other people who take their craft so seriously, because I feel like obviously money is an incentive to do things in creativity in general. But I think getting to see people actually just honing on their craft and just only focus on creating, I think that's something that's rare to see as well.
Yeah, because you find a lot of people in the industry, they do it because they love it. Because let's face it, the money's not always the best. It takes a while to really build yourself up. So sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know, but also who knows you. So I think a lot of people that are actually in the industry to start off with, it's just purely because they love it. It is a passion, and they've turned their passion into like a profession. But it's interesting you say that about the photographers and stuff. This is why we celebrate a lot of the behind the scenes roles that you get in the industry, because there's so much that happens behind the scenes that people don't realise. Even with your music artists, if it wasn't for the marketing team and the talent managers and the script writers or the ghost writers, the artist probably wouldn't be where he is now. So everyone needs to be celebrated.
No, I definitely agree. I think celebrating like the small wins. I think independence is such like a huge thing, even more so now. People know they can trust themselves and rely on themselves. So I think collaboration is something that is becoming more and more important. What would you say to the audience? Why is it important to collaborate?
For me, myself and one of my good friends, Candice, is in the industry too. We say collaboration over competition. I think it's really good to collaborate because depending on what you do, one, you can learn from that person you're collaborating with. Also, you can tap into their audience as well. And depending on what it is that you do, as we said earlier, a lot of like the roles in the industry, they kind of complement each other. So You know, if you're doing a film, why not collaborate with an artist or a beat maker to make the soundtrack your project? And then with collaboration as well, sometimes, you know, you don't even have to pay for a collaboration. A lot of us want to build our portfolio and to network and tap into a certain market. So people should collaborate. I mean, there is a lot of gatekeeping in the industry, which is one of the reasons why I put this Creative Industry Awards together for the networking. And to just bring everybody together. But I think collaboration, you've got best practice. So me, for example, as a model, us collaborating together, you might learn some things from me that you wouldn't even consider looking into. Or I might see something that you do and be like, well, why are you actually doing that? Why don't you try and do it this way? Or why don't you contact this person? Or have you thought of using this person in the industry or contacting this particular role in the industry as opposed to doing it yourself, as an example? That's why I think collaboration is really important.
I think just learning about who people are as human beings is such a big thing. How do people process things? Why do they do it the way they do? I think definitely at the awards, I feel like just people getting to see just people be the maximum versions of themselves. Everyone's got their own style, their own thing that they want to offer. What would you say is the most important thing about like, having your own clear-cut style and image?
I think it's important because that's how you identify as a person. We can't all be the same. I think if you've got your own image, you're authentic to yourself. Then you're comfortable in your own skin, you're comfortable in what you're doing, you're not trying to pretend to be something that you're not or somebody else. Because I think without that, without authenticity, trust breakdowns, there's all kinds of things that just won't work. And especially in a lot of industries, not just the creative industry, I think it's super important, for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I think authenticity is it's such a powerful thing because you can visibly look back on because how authentic you might have been at one point might be your authenticity might be different at another point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like authenticity should always be malleable on your direction. So I think authenticity is just such a huge thing in general. Like you can breathe easier, you feel better, like your spirit, definitely.
And I think in this industry as well, a lot of people in the streets because they can't sit in an office or they can't conform to, if you want to call it normalities of the world or certain rules in certain corporate jobs and stuff. So I think that's why being authentic and true to yourself is really key. And it's just a natural thing. I think you find a lot in this industry. Like if you look at, I don't know, fashion designers, they're the most quirky dressed people, some of them, your hairstylists, you can be your authentic self. And then I think you're more creative, aren't you? When you can just be you and just be comfortable in your skin. And a lot of people are serving their purpose for the industry, you know, be it a comedian or a rapper or whatever.
How do you boost your own creativity? What inspires you as a person? You know, these patinas, a businesswoman, a successful entrepreneur?
Traveling.
I've
travelled to probably 7 destinations this year. I just come back from Dubai yesterday. So traveling for me, because you learn so much different cultures, get to recharge as well. I think that's super important. And I find just being away from the noise. Sometimes I do solo traveling. I went away for my birthday this year on my own. Absolutely loved it. So traveling is where I get a lot of my creativity from, looking at different cultures, trying different foods, going to different events and just seeing how people do things differently. Like I went to Morocco in April and I absolutely loved, you know, the culture, the vibrant, the colour, the food, you know, and it gave me an idea for something actually. So that's where I get a lot of my creativity from, just from travelling in alone time.
I've seen a lot of power in being alone as a creative. What would you say to the audience? Because I feel like a lot of people do struggle with being alone and sitting with their thoughts, and especially in the creative industry when you're so visible and you've got so many eyes on you who are like watching what you're doing. What's the importance of actually having time alone and being able to have that?
I think it's really important because it's a very fast-paced industry. It can be a very cutthroat industry and very competitive as well. And sometimes you just need to be mindful for your own well-being, just to be still. Sometimes, even if it just means that you're in your bed for a couple of hours today, you thought, I'm going to have a lie in, I'm going to put on some music, meditation, go to the gym, go to the spa or whatever. I think it's really important because you can really burn yourself out. And a lot of what we do, it's a lot of long hours sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of traveling sometimes. Depending on what you do, it can be very taxing on your energy as well. If you are an actor, a rapper, a lot of different things. As much as you are your authentic self outside of your role or, you know, your character. Like if you're an actor, for example, you might be in character. If you're a model, even for me when I'm on music video sets sometimes, it's non-stop for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. You can really burn yourself out. So it's really important. But I understand that it's difficult for some people to have, time alone. So it might just be going to a spa and swimming. You're not on your own. You are. There's people around, having conversations with people that you might not normally get to speak to, going to a concert with friends. Hasn't necessarily got to be on your own, but I think it's important to take time out away from the industry sometimes and just switch off.
Definitely, like myself, I do a lot of running, boxing training, walks, and just being outside as well, and just doing deep focus work. I feel like you only feel alone if you give power to the idea of like, why am I alone, and things like that. Like you get to be alone. That's like that's how you blossom your character and strengthen your spirit and your vibration and elevate yourself. So you can be more of yourself around people.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like you attract the people that you want to be in your life. How did you learn to like, be so independent and like comfortable in your own space as a person?
I think it's just the way I am, if I'm honest. I like being alone a lot. People are quite surprised sometimes because I do like the events and I go to a lot of social events sometimes, and I think when I say, look, my phone's on Do Not Disturb from 8 p.m. till 8 a.m, for example, it is, and it's been like that since lockdown. I just love my own company. To be honest, saying that though, I think I did a lot of work during lockdown as well. I think it kind of caused us to be alone, and I really took that time to really like work on myself, who are you, who am I? You think you're this person, but are you really that person? All these kind of questions that I think life's so busy and you don't even have time to kind of discover and find yourself, and we change as you get older or due to certain circumstances and life experience, sometimes you change. I think it's important to kind of like step back and just like look at yourself. But yeah, for me, I think it is just that's just how I am personally. So what about you? Do you like being alone? Because I know, do you find your brain's constantly, if a lot of creatives, unless you take the time out to slow down, your brain is just constantly going. You go to sleep thinking, you wake up thinking, you wake up at 4 a.m. thinking. So how do you find your brain constantly ticking? And if it is, how do you switch it off and then get your alone time?
I love being alone. My brain is always ticking. I'm constantly like, new idea, instantly implement it, new idea.
Yeah.
But for me, that's like, there's a lot of like peace and serenity in that for me as a person. I feel, because it's my deep purpose.
Yeah.
I've clearly made my own philosophy for myself, my core beliefs, my values, the things that I stand for, what I want to do, what I want to put out into the world as well. For me, I believe that there's a lot of ego in memory. I feel like memories and successes are people's biggest obstacles in life, because it creates it in the mental to where you're always referencing back to it, even if you're not conscious of it.
Yeah.
And when I'm alone, for me, that's where I get the best ideas. That's where I feel the most peace. I feel something for me was eliminating the concept of like time in my brain.
Yes, important.
Like if you don't see time as a real thing, but rather as just a concept, which is what it is, it just removes so much like pressure and stress from you, and you're just truly like present. Absolutely,
I agree, and I say that as well. To be honest, if I would wake up at 4 a.m. to start my day, I'm waking up at 4 a.m. to start my day. If I want to, stay awake for 24 hours, I'm going to do that, and then I'll sleep for 24 hours the next day. I think it's important as well, because I think time can really. People are too focused on time. Oh my gosh, I've got 24 hours, I've got 7 days, I'm 30 in 2 days' time. And I just think it can put a lot of stress and pressure on people for absolutely no reason. And if you really look back at time and you look at certain calendars and you think, is today even the date and the time that we think it is? Our clocks go forward with leap years and all this, like, damn, what time is it really? So it's important to not clock watch.
Definitely. How important would you say like having an actual clear direction and focus is for creatives?
You definitely need to have a clear focus, and I think in general you need to have structure. You need to have some kind of structure. When I say structure, I mean like a plan. I want to be an actor, or I want to do marketing. Not so much putting time on it, but at least know roughly how am I going to get there. Do I need to do? Am I going to network? Am I going to collab? Am I going to do a course? What is it that I'm going to do? I think it's really important. You need to have a focus. You can't just going through life for life's sake and not knowing what the end goal is. Now, I know you're going to agree with me. You've got an end goal, and before you've got there, the goalpost has moved. There's no problem with that, but you definitely need to have some kind of focus. Otherwise, yeah, you're just living for living sake, in my opinion. So yeah.
No, I definitely feel that. Something for me is like having really strong daily because I feel like obviously your identity, how you are to others and yourself, that's something that interchanges depending on your actual progression. So the daily habits is like what's the first thing you do when you wake up? You like your subconscious knows what you subconsciously go to do. How much time do you put into something that isn't, about what your purpose is and focus is. For me especially, fitness, diet, all that kind of stuff. Important. What are some of the key daily habits that you embody?
I think working out is an important one. I like to start my day and I like to train early. So I'm the kind of person, I'll wake up, I'll give thanks that I'm awake and that, I've lived to see another day, and then 9 times out of 10 I'll go and work out, even if it's just a half an hour high incline walk. Because again, I use that time and I kind of like start to process the day, and I've got my to-do list and that kind of thing. So that's important. Eating healthily as well. I think health is wealth, not just for creators, just for everybody in general. So that's extremely important. Self-development as well. I try to listen to, if it's just a chapter of an audio book, read a book, watch a bit of a podcast. I think that's really important as well. But at the same time, if I'm not able to do something for that day, I don't stress about it. It's not okay, oh my gosh, I've got to get it done. Because it's, it's my ritual, it's my day to day. Because every day is different, anything can happen. So I'd say don't get too hit up on yourself. If you are unable to do certain things, move it on to the next day. Don't stress about it unless it's extremely important.
No, I definitely agree, man. I resonate with that a lot. I think routine, this is what I did. So I think with routine, I put a very extreme routine in place. And then the more that sort of sunk in, and I just did it without thinking, then I would just tweak it. And I think you should have a routine just as a foundation, and then the more you get into it, you can slowly release from that. Say, for example, you say, okay, I have to go to the gym at this time every day. I have to do this amount of time for a workout. You don't know, you're not always going to want to do that at the same time every day.
Yeah.
But you don't want to, I think it ties into motivation and discipline.
Yeah, it's true.
I feel like you can't rely on like time constraints and motivation and routine to actually do it. I think it's just self-discipline. And I think the purpose of routine is just to build self-discipline. So that like as you're going forward with it, then you can adapt and you can change. How did you develop and build self-discipline into yourself for the different sectors that you work in as a person?
It's very important, especially when I used to juggle like my creative career with my corporate career, because how I built my creative career was alongside my corporate. So I'd have my corporate role during the week, and then I'd do the creative stuff on the weekends or on the evening. So self-discipline, it was highly important. And back then when I was in the corporate world, it was, I'm going to be at the gym for 6 a.m. and I'm going to leave at 6:30. It had to be that way in order for me to fit everything in. It wasn't possible to say, okay, I'm going to have a light in until 7 because I had to be at work for 8:30. For example, so I think discipline was extremely important, and it still is very important, because I think you can fall off track if you're not disciplined, and going back to having your goals and things like that. If you're not disciplined, you're probably not going to reach your goals. I think you feel accomplished each day if you know that you've got certain things on your, if not your actual written list, mental list, like I go to the gym, things like that. I think it just, you feel self-accomplished. It's like, well, I've had my 5 litres of water today and I've ran 5 miles and things like that. I think it is important. But like I say, you can't be too strict on yourself.
Definitely.
Because life changes. Mood changes. So some days you wake up like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just gonna chill and eat crisps today. But then you do double the amount of it tomorrow.
Speed. Yeah. What's the importance, do you think, of adaptability? How important is adaptability in what you do?
You have to be extremely adaptable because, like I say, things change all the time, and especially with things like technologies and things like that, global expansion, global reach, global businesses and things like that. You have to be really adaptable to change. I think, like in any career in any business, I think you need to be really adaptable because the world's turning and changing ever so quickly. And I think if you're not adaptable, you're going to fall off. And I think being adaptable, it opens up a lot of opportunities because people realise, oh, actually, as much as she can be, this way today, she can be, okay, let's just say really posh and well-spoken today. Oh, there's a role that I want her to do because I've actually seen a few sides of her and things like that. So I think it's really important to be adaptable because, especially in this industry, there are so many different dynamics, so many different characters of people.
Yeah.
You have to be adaptable. I don't think you'd succeed. And I've seen it myself, people that aren't adaptable to change or circumstances, and they fall off pretty quickly.
It can be restrictive, I think, even with like, if you only want to do one type of sound and then you try to continue that forward, well, that might be your sound. Like, it's not always going to be something that is going to drive you forward in terms of direction of where music's going. I completely agree with what you're saying around adaptability. I think that's a huge thing.
But I think also though, even if you've still got to be going back to your character and your identity, you still need to be true to yourself. So don't adapt too much just to fit in. If something doesn't work or a project doesn't really suit or fit your brand, then sorry, it's not for me. I think that's another thing. Sometimes you see people do it, like you say, in music. I can't sing, but let's say I could sing.
Are you performing at the Creative Award lecture?
Absolutely not. But let's say I could sing when I sang like an Adele type, and then tomorrow I'm going to start doing like a gigs rap. Doesn't quite sit right with brands. So you still need to be realistic. I think if you are adapting, it's some things just don't work at the same time. I think you need to be mindful of both, really.
How do you, so in terms of keeping up to date with like, industry information for your decisions, your choices, what you want, how do you, in an industry that's so constantly changing and moving forwards, how do you personally keep up to date with that?
I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of reading. I'm in quite a few different WhatsApp groups. So that's kind of how I keep up to date with things. I think you need to keep up with the news. I'm not really a news type gossip person, but you do need to keep up to date with all those kind of things because things can change in a heartbeat. Look at TikTok trends, for example. It's here today, gone tomorrow. So it's a fast-moving industry, like I say, and it's not for the weak-hearted. I think you've got to constantly be on your toes. You've got to stay relevant. You've got to get in certain rooms. You have to, and you need to have a really wide network of people as well, I think, in the industry, because if you stick to just this little circle of people, you're going to miss what's happening over there. So that's why I do a lot of networking. Is really important. What about you? Do you stay up to date? Are you 10 years behind?
Being in the right places, definitely. Yeah, just putting myself in the right places so you're around people where you can actually trust the things that they're saying to you. I definitely do a lot of my own research, obviously for my marketing, I feel like while you don't want to be too influenced by the culture or absorbed by it, just paying attention to it. I feel like that's a huge thing to look at when you're actually doing things because, you know, it's what the people are feeling. Actually speaking to people and how do people feel about things and how do people think about things, what are their methods for doing. So I would definitely say that. One question I really wanted to ask was, what character traits do you look for in the people that you work with?
What, for the awards itself or just for the awards?
I'll go with the awards.
Yeah, I mean, with the awards, I mean, a lot of everybody on the team are close friends of mine, but it wasn't a case of, well, you've got that role just because you're my friend. It was, I'm going to just stand back and see who jumps in, who helps. If I've asked you to help out, how have you managed it? How have you handled it? So for me, it's just people that are hardworking, authentic, but you are the company that you keep. So I'm not actually surprised that my team have the traits that they have because I'm very particular with who I actually class as friends and who I have around me. And when I say friends, it's business partners. I've got some business partners that are really close friends as well. I've got some friends now that are family, but I do really think that you are the company that you keep. So I've got my team now. The last awards that we had a meeting with the venue and they asked questions and it was great. I sat back and I actually didn't need to say too much because the team just knew exactly how we wanted it to run. It's their business too. It's not just mine, to be honest.
That's a real leader though, to be able to, just the energy that you embody and you carry, like people know that they have to do the work, people know that they have to do these things and have these traits in order to continue to, you know, thrive in an environment.